So today what I would like to talk to you guys about is what are the rules of the road for an Epic implementation and an upgrade. What are the I'm using like the stoplight, red, yellow, green, what to possibly completely rethink, so stop and do not do this. Yield, what you need to, kind of pump the brakes and think a little bit about before you make a decision. And then the green items, of course, what to hit the gas on, so that your Epic implementation and upgrade can be as successful as possible. I really tried to focus on the project management items versus the project as a whole. So is anyone here in healthcare? Awesome. Epic shop? Awesome. Cool. So I'll try to explain some of the terminology that I use. Some of it is Epic lingo as we go. Okay, Forrest already did this for me. So today what I'd like to talk about is number one, give you background on our implementation, so you have a better understanding of what our organization and what we went through and where we are, as well as the red, yellow, green. Same for our upgrade, the background, red, yellow, green. And then what's next, what's up on the horizon for us, as well as question and answers at the end. All right, so from a CHS perspective, our implementation, so right now we have, we're using Epic as our application software for our registration and scheduling and billing system, so RevAccess, as we like to call it. We have Initiate as our vendor for EMPI, Cerner for our EMR, and we have 3M for HIM. So I wanted to say that first of all because it's a very complex integration. Most Epic clients are a full suite Epic, where they have front end RevAccess as well as their clinical system is Epic as well. So we're very complex. Every organization likes to say they're different. Well, there's no other customer like us for Epic. So we are very different. So that is our Epic implementation. This is kind of how our organization is from an application perspective. This is just a small piece of the applications that we have, but that's kind of what I'm going to cover today, just the Epic side. And what we did was we replaced our legacy RevAccess systems, and we had a whole slew of them. So people use GECB from an ambulatory practice perspective. We had McKesson Star, we had Pathways Healthcare System, we had paper, email, CABS, which was a homegrown system. I mean, everybody across the organization was doing a lot of different things and a lot of different applications. So with our Epic implementation, we were able to get rid of all of those and then just have one single application to do everything for us, which is awesome. Also in our legacy system, if you went to a ambulatory practice 2 days ago, but then you went to the ED today, you would get 2 statements, which is not very user-friendly for our customers, because then they would have to call 2 separate business offices to handle any questions or handle any billing for them. So through the Epic implementation, we were able to sort of get rid of a bunch of applications as well as standardization and make things better for our patients. Our implementation kicked off in January 2014, and we had a phased rollout approach. So our first go live was in November 2015, and our last go live will be in July 2018. So this is a long drawn out process, but I'll kind of go into the reasons behind that in just a second. We actually just finished up a go live in August, and we've got another one in November, so we are just hopping all the time. We had as I mentioned, the phased rollout approach. So what we did was we had a go live facility by facility. So we went to university first, and we basically replaced those systems there. And as we're going to facility, we're replacing the systems one by one. In the beginning, we were kind of small scale. So we did CHS University Acute, as well as all of our urgent care practices. So that was kind of a small, or get your feet wet type of feel. How's this implementation process going to go? But most recently in August, we've started kind of the saying, you're doing such a great job, so now we want you to do more faster. So we've kind of sped up our implementation a little bit, and last August we actually went live with Pineville Acute, Pineville Surrounding Ambulatory Practices, CHS Behavioral Health, its ambulatory practices, and we also went live with our on-site clinics and employer-based clinics. So it was a much broader scope than what we've kind of historically done, but as I mentioned, we're trying to go faster and get that ROI as quickly as we can. But as we stand right now, we're about 50% rolled out with our acute locations and 75% with our ambulatory locations. We have a dedicated project team of 80 FTEs. Those are full-time working on this project, probably more than full-time, as many of us would say. So all of us are in a dedicated area, so it's nice that we're actually all together. All right, so let's hit the first item. I tried to not focus on the negative things and do just one of those each. But I got my first red stop item here, operational validation sessions prior to build. So, of course, we had our Epic implementation team, that's Epic Resources, and they help guide you through the process. And, they're experts in this, so of course, any recommendations that they have, we're going to say, yes, that's what we need to do. You know what we should do. And one of the ones that they have, and don't get me wrong, some of the things they tell you is awesome and you should do it, but this one right here I would not recommend. We had validation sessions prior to us doing any build in the system, and during these validation sessions they were over a span of weeks, and they were multiple sessions a day, and you sat in a room like this, and how do you want this to be, and how do you want that to be, and you're there with your operational team, and they're making decisions about a system that they've never seen, that they've never had their hands in. And so we made a lot of decisions at that point that when we got to integration testing and when we went live, and even still today as we roll out, they're backtracking on their decisions that they made because, number one, they've never even seen the system. They don't know how it works. They're making decisions on how their legacy system worked and not knowing how this new system's going to work. And that may have been how we needed to do it then, but that's not how we need to do it now. And so I've got an example of patient refunds and credits. We have a unified business office where now, all the billing questions and statements and everything comes from one business office, and they were to work the credits and refunds, and that's what was decided 2 years ago. But they changed their minds on that, and now HBO wants to do some piece of it, and so we had to completely rebuild some of the workflows to accommodate that. And you basically, number one, you lost time in all of the time that you set in that validation session, and then now you're losing time, you're having to do rework. So, again, as much as I feel like Epic does know what they're talking about, this would be one that I would say, do not do. Stop. Build the system workflows as you think you know. Our project team it was staffed half and half. Half were existing IT members and half were that were pulled from operations. So, quite frankly, they may not know everything about what the workflow should be, but I think we can build it and then put it in front of, demo it for operations, let them get into the test environments, let them play around and see if this works. If you find out, oh, that doesn't work, okay, we'll tweak it and bring it back to you. My personal recommendation is you build, you demo, you tweak. You build, you demo, you tweak until you get it right where you want it. Funny enough, this is Epic's new implementation model. They don't do the whole validation sessions in the front end anymore. They actually do this model, which I found out not too long ago, and I'm like, well, that would have been nice and saved us months of work. But so that's my red item for implementation process. All right, so let's pump the brakes on project team organization. Again, an Epic recommendation was for our project team to be organized in a way specific to the modules within Epic. So you've got registration, you have scheduling, you have hospital billing, and you have professional billing. You have a separate, even more technical team over here. And so when we first organized our teams, that's exactly how we organized our teams. Again, Epic recommendation. And honestly, I think it worked in the beginning because those folks were having to become subject matter experts at those modules. But over time, as we got into integration testing again, and as we got closer to having issues and problems, for example, the registration and scheduling team would be like, oh no, that's a scheduling problem. Oh no, that's a registration problem. And then those two didn't have a clue about what was going on in the other two teams, and they basically were telling us the same thing. I would go to the other team, and then they would say to the other team. It was just finger pointing. And there was not a lot of cross-training across the two teams. And about halfway through our rollout process, we did have a reorganization. And now the access teams, Reg and Sketch, they still are separate teams, but they roll up to now one director. Same with the billing, they roll up to one director. And so, it's still not optimal, but at least you've got one person who can visually see what's going on and help to try to bring the two teams together. And we are trying to develop some cross-training and get those teams able to function on either side. We're not there yet by any means, but hopefully long term it'll be something we'll be able to continue to develop with our implementation rollout schedule. It's really hard for us to stop and cross-train. So we're kind of, just at a rolling speed right now where we're not able to do as much integration amongst the teams as we would like to. But do what? I think we've got about 12 on each team, 10 or 12 on each team. So, they're bigger teams. They're not small by any means, yeah. I think and that was kind of what I was mentioning in my recommendation as well. It really depends on your org's, how dynamic you are and how large you are. We have a Community Connect team that I'll get into later, but they have 2 people on each team. And so I think it is easy and okay for them to kind of be more siloed because, well, they don't have enough people to really point fingers at. They all have to figure it out. So that would be one of my pump the brakes on and really take a lot of time and consideration in building the teams. And then this is just a graphic of how we used to look and how we look now. All right. Pump the brakes on Big Bang implementation if you're a large organization. I don't know how I would have survived if we would have went live at all 24 acute locations at the same time. I won't even talk about the practices. It's just not possible. And quite frankly, Epic was really kind of pushing us to do that. Just flip the switch. So we just could not do that at all. And so one of the values that we've really found in this phased rollout approach is that, okay, right now we're getting ready for Northeast and Stanley, so all of our focus right now is on Northeast and Stanley. There's very few of us that are thinking about Cleveland, Kings, and Lincoln that's coming up in March. So really the analysts, the teams that are really in there doing the work in the system are able to focus on the next go live. That includes testing, that includes training. So we're able to really focus on that next upcoming go live and perfect it to the best of our abilities. We've had a lot of lessons learned as we've gone live at each location. Number one, what day of the week we go live on. First, we went live on a Saturday night and found that it was better for the EDs for us to go live on Friday night. So also what we found at each go live is that, maternity needs a lot of help. So we are going to make sure we have plenty of support in the maternity, on the maternity floor, just based on what we found out at university, for example. So we've even had to tweak our workflows, of course. What we did for maternity, those workflows at university actually is nothing like what we do now. Just based on what we learned there at that facility and how they helped us develop the software what was better for everyone. Of course, everybody's talked about it today. as we've gone live, we figured out, oh, we need to communicate a lot more with those nursing units because they don't get the armband scanning. That's just an example, but so every go live we've found, okay, we need to communicate better with the caterer that's coming. It can be anything, but every go live we find that we need to increase communication. So basically through a phased rollout process, number one, you're able to focus, and number two, you're able to perfect it over time. All right, so the good stuff, the green items. So what I think we did great at, now, again, this was an Epic recommendation, so again, I don't want to bash on them the whole time. They have some great ideas. So our committee structure, our governing committee structure, and our guiding principles. We have an executive committee that's overseeing the entire project. And there are subcommittees underneath that executive committee: patient access, patient accounting, operational transformation, revenue cycle integration, and value and revenue realization. I can never say it. We call it VR squared for short. Each one of these committees, they have a purpose, and for example, the Operational Transformation Committee, one of its big responsibilities is our timeline. So right now we're pending a decision for when our go-live date, exact go-live dates, the 11th and 14th, hopefully, in July. So it just gives you a taste of each smaller subcommittee makes different decisions that impact the whole project. But the chairs of the subcommittee are on the executive committee. So basically they're able to bring whatever items are approved that need executive oversight to the executive committee. We use the executive committee to approve all of our major scoping decisions. One of those that I mentioned was the Unified Business Office. That went multiple months to be able to determine, yes, that's what we want to do. We want to have one single business office. So I think our governance structure really worked to our benefit because we were able to get the right folks to approve high-level decisions, and then if it needed higher approval, those folks were able to take that up higher. Our guiding principles. So the executive committee established these guiding principles, and we are supposed to live and die by these 10 guiding principles throughout our project. That means our executives, that means our analysts, everyone is supposed to think about these guiding principles as we do day-to-day work. And I just summarized and didn't include them, but patient first always, so that's big for us, always thinking about our patients. What does this mean for our patients? How is this going to impact our patients? Is it negatively impacting our patients? Positively impacting our patients. Standardization and best practices. So as I mentioned, we had umpteen number of Rev Access systems, and so getting rid of all of those, making it better. We only have one. Through the process of analyzing the workflows for the different departments in different areas, hopefully making them as standard as possible. That's not always easy to do because you have all of these different executives and leaderships over different hospitals and practices. So as much as possible, trying to make everybody do all of the same workflows as much as possible. Reduce redundancies and enhance patient experience, and then lean principles and process improvement. So those were kind of when we're developing workflows and when we're even for training. I mean, everything we took these concepts into consideration to develop the best end result as possible. All right, my next green item is our training team. We had a dedicated training team, and they were responsible for developing the training materials, conducting training, and then they also help assist with go live support. Kind of the structure of how we had our training team was there was one instructional designer for each module, so we had 4, and that was for Reg, Sketch, Hospital Billing, and Professional Billing. And really, they were in the trenches with our analysts in terms of designing the workflows. So they sat in all the meetings and heard everything that was going on, so then they could walk away and then go develop the training materials. And we also had credentialed trainers who came from operations to help us conduct our training and also support us at Go Live. What I think the biggest values of this is that, number one, those instructional designers were not analysts. They were not in the system building, developing anything. Their job was strictly on training. So what that allowed for our analysts to do is to focus on what their jobs were, which was to build applications. So I feel like that separation of responsibilities really helped both sides so that they could be successful. All of our trainers had, or specifically our instructor designers, had training backgrounds. So we didn't have to train them to be a trainer. They already knew the concepts and how to develop training materials and go out there and feel free to be trainers. So I feel like that was a huge win for us and made us stronger. And then, quite honestly, these trainers know the workflows better than some of our analysts. So for Go Lives, they're instrumental to our success because, number one, they can be on the floor, they can answer any questions that pop up, and then, hey, we just found out we need to completely rework this. Josh, can you go build a job aid and get that out to our users? And so right then they're able to do it quick as possible, and our analysts can be over here actually doing the changes to the workflow in the system. So I just feel like our training team was just one of the major reasons why we've been so successful thus far. All right, this is my biggie. I will live and die by it. So we have what we call a soft live period. Not to get too technical, but so on 11/1, everyone's going to, for Northeast and Stanley, they're going to start using Epic. Well, there's future appointments already scheduled way into 2018. We have to do a process of, gathering those from the legacy systems and putting those into Epic. I won't get into all of that piece, but this soft live period is from when the appointments are loaded into the new system, into Epic, to when they actually go live. And so if you're having an appointment, if you go to the doctor's office and you have an appointment and it's going to be for 11:15, well, that scheduler is going to schedule you in Epic. Well, if you come in and you have an appointment and you want it for 10:29, they're going to schedule you in GECB. So at that period, the soft live period, they're in two systems. That sounds complex and difficult for people, but what it does is it allows our users to practice. I say practice because it's not practice, it's real, but it gives them an opportunity to not feel the pressure of someone standing there and I've got to get this person registered. Why is this not letting me go? And they kind of just feel they start to get more confident in the system during this 2-week period that we have prior to Go Live. So that's one of the bigger benefits, is just it increases the comfort level that our schedulers have. We also run into issues during soft live that we're able to quickly resolve prior to Go Live. So what that does is we're able to fix it before they're 100% live on Epic. And it also helps us shift our focus. So during these two weeks periods, we're able to really focus on our practices, our ambulatory practices that went live. And then on the night of cutover, we kind of shift our focus a little bit and start really focusing on the acute side. So, during this soft live period, we're just able to kind of really focus on ambulatory and fix those issues before that just adds additional work when we 100% go live. So during this soft live period, we may be at Rock Hill MOB and it's like, holy moly, the roof's flying off here. We need to send more people here and we can adjust our support schedule. We may be at Steel Creek OBGYN. I made that up because I can't think of one off the top of my head. We may be there and it's like, oh man, these folks, they've got it. We don't need to come back here any more days. We don't even need to come back here at True Go Live. They're good. So during this soft live period, we're able to kind of feel out our end users a little bit so that we can shift our support into an area that really needs it and kind of come off of these folks that are like good and they got it. So absolutely, I feel like this is one of the reasons that we have really been successful, because during this soft life period, we're able to resolve issues, shift support, and really see it gives us an idea of how this go live is going to go. So if soft live's going pretty good, it usually means go live's going to go pretty good. All right, so before I go into the upgrade, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
In previous years, I've done ERP implementations, and I've noticed that when you have these big systems, like what you're talking about, they don't necessarily follow PMBOK project management. They'll just kind of just shove it in, and then whatever happens, happens. How do they approach this from a project management standpoint? Is it
Yeah, I would definitely not say we shoved it in. We probably wouldn't have been near as successful if we would have. One of the things that I think we did well at was really hearing our users, understanding what workflows they had so that we could build that up front. And then, we were able to, especially as we kind of shifted our go live approach, like for Pineville and behavioral health is very different in their workflows. So we were able to focus on them, find out exactly what they need, build it, and then test it, hopefully successfully, and then, implement it, which I feel like that is a little different than just shoving it in. Number one, because we're hearing from operations and we're hearing from the customer and our stakeholders, and what do you need? What do you want? How can we make it better for you so that you're not wasting all this time asking the end users the same questions every time they present, for example. So I definitely don't think we shoved it in. I do feel like we followed the steps, design, build, test, go live. So I think we were definitely much more not rigid PMBOK, to say the least, but definitely more structured.
You're still using the Orion tool for all the tasks?
Yes. Yeah, we had as the running joke. I don't think it's funny because I enjoy it, but they have a tracker for that. So Epic has a tracker for everything. They have a tracker for the tracker, which I don't think is a joke because I actually appreciated it. I didn't have to design and develop and implement those trackers. But Epic has many, many different tools that they use, and they change every hour. It seems like they have a different way of doing it. So yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially, for example, us, they're used to full suite implementations, and we were not. So we would have to go and take all of the clinical steps out and then have our clinical teams come and put their steps in. So almost everything that they gave us, we had to kind of rehaul a little bit, but at least it was a starting point for us. Yes, ma'am.
Is Carolina's rehabilitation going to roll out for ambulatory and acute?
2018. It's our last one. It's
in. We've been getting things that say new bills are coming.
Yeah. It's in July 2018. Yep.
And so even if Maine is one location, you'll do acute first and then ambulatory split.
You mean for the rehab go live?
Yeah.
It will.
You'll split inpatient versus outpatient.
It will all go live at the same time. So acute, ambulatory, and any of the surrounding practices will go live at the same time. They'll go live on different days, but at the same time. Yeah, but all in July. Yes, sir.
So it sounded like what I've heard to this point is that some processes were different based on administrations or different groups that you had to roll out to.
Yeah, so I do feel like as much as we want to, I hate to say it's we're one, that's kind of our brand. We are one as CHS. Every one of our facilities behaves differently. In a lot of aspects, specifically with what we were replacing, Rev Access, they I mean, they were doing things completely different. And then, like, for example, Mercy and CMC, Mercy did a lot of things that CMC did, but yet when we went to Mercy, they weren't doing the things. They thought they were doing what CMC did, but they weren't. So, and those leaders there are completely different too, different styles, and you kind of have to adapt to each facility to know kind of what kind of customer service and implementation you're going to do.
So does it seem to be more the administration or the county they're in, or their practice? In other words, one might be OBGYN, and the other one is broken legs?
Yeah, I would say it's by the administration at the facility, less about the region that they're in, and then definitely each specialty behaves differently as well. So OBGYN, and then your, just a normal, internal medicine facility will operate a lot differently and have different standards. So.
Does this include the clinical as well as the revenue and everything?
No, our clinical application is on Cerner, so two different applications.
I've got another question. Your billing master, is there one master?
There actually is. There actually is one charge master, thankfully. Yes. Yep. All right. Okay, so let's jump into the upgrade. We upgraded in June of this year. We went from version 2014 to version 2017. We had to do that primarily because we were in a rollout process, so it's very hard to stop doing rollouts and do an upgrade. But we didn't want to wait to the end of our implementation timeline because there was a lot of functionality in the upgrade that we needed. As well as we have a Community Connect site, again, I'll get to in a second, but we want them to be on the latest and greatest version of Epic as well. So that was kind of our thinking there of when we needed to go live. June was a perfect time for us. I say perfect because it was right after our hub facility, CMC, and the Central Medical Group practices had went live. So it was kind of a good timing to get that out of the way and then, push this in and then continue our rollout process. So we had a downtime of 80 minutes, which I am darn proud of. I'm very proud of that. So with our legacy systems, they were down more than 12 hours sometimes. So you can imagine how that impacted end users. Not only our first goal with the upgrade was, okay, I think we might be down 3 hours. And I was like, that's a long time. But, everybody else was like, well, we're used to 12 hours, so this is fantastic, And so our first goal was 3 hours, and then we were able to get it down to, my live goal was 1 hour and 30 minutes, but we beat that, so that was great. And we also were recognized on Epic's website for being down, less than 90 minutes, and especially jumping such a huge version jump there. We kicked off the project in December 2016. Again, went live in June 17. So that was the standard 6-month time frame that Epic recommends, and we needed every day of it. During this period, we did not stop focusing on our implementation rollout. Our analysts had to focus on both at the same time, which you'll see later is a risk area. And so that was kind of difficult for us during that period. And then lastly, we used Epic's Upgrade Assistance, which is professional services that they offer to help organizations go through an upgrade. And basically, these were resources that we could tap to say, hey, help us with this specific functionality. We're having a hard time getting it to work. We don't know what it means. Help us out here. So really, that's what we utilized Epic for during this process. Yes?
I don't know if you're going to talk about it anymore, but what's the main difference between the upgrade assistance and then just the TS that each team has?
Yeah, so we still have our TSs are full-time, or as needed for us. I say full-time, but as we need them. Upgrade assistance was additional resources to really focus on helping us specifically with the upgrade. What happened was our TSs and the upgrade assistance folks had to work together because we didn't have normal Epic workflows happening, and they weren't up to speed enough to know what, really what we needed. So they had to kind of work together on that aspect. But I mean, they basically were there for us to ask any specific upgrade questions, whereas our TSs could still help us focus and answer questions with our rollout process. Yes, sir?
Epic recognized CHS for the implementation. How Epic is doing for the next upgrade, how Epic can help CHS in the next upgrade, because they are learning as well with you on the upgrade. So there is they can learn from this for the next upgrade for you.
Oh, absolutely. So I think we were like the 23rd, 24th maybe per organization to go live on the upgrade. And as each organization went live, they were able to tell us, hey, they had an issue on this upgrade. We need to look into this and make sure you guys test it, make sure it's not broken for you. Now, during this period right now where they're prepping and getting ready for the 2018 version release in February, they're not really doing anything for us right now in terms of prepping for that upgrade. They're really focusing on getting it ready. So once they release, then they become a little more helpful in helping you through the upgrade process. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And you guys did so much more stellar than Baptist Hospital did many years ago.
For the upgrade?
No, for the
implementation?
Implementation.
Yeah, we've been very blessed thus far.
So did y'all, I take it y'all upgraded strictly in the Epic manner? In other words, any changes you made related to CHS you found very fairly to the workflow only? Or,
Can you ask your question again?
did y'all customize Epic any?
Oh, absolutely. As much as they tell you they will not customize. We had to customize, and one of the biggest reasons was not because of the Rev Access workflow, because of our clinical system, because of that integration with Cerner is so complex that we've had to do a lot of customizations to make what's going outbound of Epic work for what our clinical system needs. So we absolutely did customizations, probably not as much during the upgrade. To be honest, we kind of scaled back a little bit. We only took the things that we absolutely needed just because we were in a time crunch. We had rollouts still going on. So, I don't think we took everything we could have taken. That probably would have taken more work from us and more customizations. We kind of scaled back a little bit on just what the necessities were.
And I would assume that Epic has a way of you keeping your upgrades separate and reapplicable to the next release like you're doing here with the upgrade.
Do what now?
When Epic comes in with an upgrade, you have a way of managing your updates, reapplying them back in?
Oh yeah, so I'll give you the example that we had. We had to have a separate test environment, for example, of where the upgrade was, and we were testing there, but we still had go lives going on that we needed to fix production for. So we were kind of split all the time in what was happening, but the way that we kind of worked it was we moved our build up through the upgrade then into production, and Epic has a version skewing process where they're able to, you can go through an upgraded environment and take it to a downgraded environment, but Epic does the version skewing to get it in the right version that you need it. So they were able, I was very pleased with that process, so that it didn't stop our day-to-day work that was going on. But absolutely, a little bit more to your question, during, like right now, we have a special updates that they're called, and we take packages from Epic every other month, so that we're able to get some new functionality that we may need to resolve issues, or it's just a nice to have. So we take updates from them every other month as our personal schedule that we have. until we get the big upgrade that will have a lot more functionality in it.
So on the locations that are yet to be installed or go live on Epic, will they go live on 2014, and then you upgrade immediately to 17, or you're saying they've already come over
Right.
and are upgraded?
We don't
and
have a
you install-
2014 anymore.
You install
Yep.
2017.
Yeah, it was, so in June, University, Mercy, CMC, Union, they were all on version 2014. And so in June, we upgraded them to 2017, and so now everybody's on 2017, and that's all environments that we have. Yep, and then, so, in November, they're gonna go live on 2017, and then basically everybody's gonna go live on 2017 before we do our next upgrade.
So, how do you go about training these different teams to use these upgrades? Would it be like an email to all the staff in the department, a huddle, or?
Yeah, we used various ways. We didn't, again, because we didn't take a lot of, huge workflow changing functionality because we just kind of got them on the system. We didn't have a need for in-person training. We did not do any in-class upgrade training. It wasn't necessary. We did a lot of e-learnings and we did a lot of job aids. And that, that was the best mechanism that we saw and what was necessary for just the changes that we made. We didn't have a lot of net new functionality. We had a lot of, this column's no longer there anymore, it's over here. Or that whole banner you used to see, it's no longer there anymore, but it might be over here. You just gotta go click for it. So that is really the biggest items that we had. All right, so let's get our, don't do this, out of the way. So, so with the upgrade, Epic supplies what they call Nova Notes, and it's basically, here's the notes that you need to read to determine what this piece of functionality will give you, what build you need to do, what training you need to do, what testing you need to do. And so there's a lot of notes for the upgrade. Well, so that's one piece. They also have what they call anytime notes, where you can take that functionality at any time. You don't have to wait for your upgrade. You can take it whenever you want it. So, yeah. We didn't review those anytime notes leading up to our upgrade because we were so busy working on our implementation go live. And Epic really encourages you to review the anytime notes as well as your upgrade notes so that you can take as much functionality as possible into the upgrade. Like I mentioned, we didn't do that in advance, and it caused our teams a lot of work at the time of the upgrade. Granted, they could have done it before the upgrade, but we didn't. And so we basically doubled the amount of items that our analysts had to review for the upgrade. And it was unfortunate. And everyone was not happy about it. So, and another thing to think about too, not only was it more work for our analysts at that period and at that moment, but Christina and I will tell you that the reporting aspect of it was awful. So they're in two different places, and you have to report out of each place, and to then say, hey, you have 1,200 notes you need to review. And they're like, oh, I reviewed all my upgrade ones. Oh, no, there's another place you need to go to over here and review all these notes. And it's just very complicated for our analysts. It's hard for us to report on, to then say you're 50% complete with your review or your build, whatever it may be. So I definitely recommend that you have some type of review frequency, whether that is monthly, every other month, quarter, every quarter. I recommend you have that in place. I will say that we don't have that in place yet for our next upgrade. I recommend it, but we're not doing it yet. It's just so hard right now because we're still in that implementation mode and we just can't focus on this stuff. So hopefully we will have it after our next upgrade, but once our implementations are done. But definitely that caused us a lot of heartburn and more work on our end just to even keep up with it. All right, so let's pump the brakes on upgrading while you're implementing. So kind of hinted on this throughout. It was so difficult. I mean, I felt so bad because here we were following up with these analysts saying, you haven't completed these tasks. You have to have them completed by the end of the week. And they're like, I'm working on this I'm working on this prod issue that we're having. I can't focus on the upgrade right now because we're having a major prod issue. So not only were our analysts focusing on the next implementation, the upgrade, but we had production issues and we had day-to-day maintenance that we had to do. And so it was very difficult for us to pull all of those hours that we needed out of these resources that were pretty much tapped out. Not only did it impact our project team, but also impacted operations. They also didn't have the time to think about an upgrade because they were working on, they were telling us, hey, we have all these prod issues that you need to fix. So, it was very hard to kind of shift the focus. Don't have a recommendation for you because, well, this is what we had to do. So I don't have a recommendation for you on this particular item. Oh my.
Does Epic publish when their next major version was, so that people would decide, if the next one is coming in 2019, then that better be where?
Yeah, I mean, reality is we didn't have to take the upgrade. I mean, Epic doesn't make you stay on N-1. They don't make you stay on a certain version. But if you want certain functionality, which we did, in particular, we wanted MyChart. That was a big piece for us. So we had to do the upgrade as just part of our implementation. So absolutely, I know that the upgrade is coming out and it's going to be released in February. So we know those somewhat timelines for them, but we just didn't have a way to get around it for us, in particular, our organization.
So wasn't it possible to work in parallel teams, like some of the analysts focusing on the upgrade, some of them focusing on the
So we somewhat did that. We had what we had our upgrade team, and so that was primarily about two teammates from each work stream. But they also were subject matter experts in that prod issue that we had. So it was very hard to just get their 100% full focus. So yeah, it would have been great if we could have just said, don't work on anything else other than just the upgrade. But it wasn't reality for us. All right, yay, green, thanks. Okay, so as I mentioned, kind of the note review. I'll say review, build, testing, and training. There's in Epic's Nova, their user web module that they have. You're able to do a lot of reporting out of that. And so we had deadlines, of course, for everything to be done. And we reported out twice a week on where everyone was on their progress. So Christina and I were not friends of the team during this period because we basically were showing, hey, you're not done and you have to be done by, your deadline is Friday, but we're not going to report out again until Tuesday, so you have the weekend to work if you want to get your stuff done. So we were very aggressive on these timelines, and quite honestly, we got a lot of kudos from Epic. They were very impressed with the deadlines that we set, how aggressive we were, and basically the results that we had. So an example of that was we had a 7-week period where all build had to be completed. For this one, it was kind of just a split, a straight line, 14% due each week. And some of our other items, for example, testing, we had a lot of the testing to be completed on the front end of the timelines because we had other activities happening during those last 2 weeks. So we kind of front loaded the activity. So I want 25-25, and then we kind of 5-5-5 after that. But we were very aggressive. I just screenshotted kind of a spreadsheet of what we sent out each week. Okay, here's all of the build items. You can see 2,097 build items, what we had to do. As of 7 a.m. on 3/1, this is how many you had completed. And then here's your percentage complete. and then here's what you need to have done by Friday. So you have a lot of work to do. I mean, that's kind of how we had a standing meeting, status meeting every week. So we really focused on this and had them push through. And I kind of messed up a little bit right here. Here was the grand total that they had to do, and here's how many they had to do by Friday, for example. So that was a daunting task for some people because they're like, oh man, I thought I was ahead of the game, but now I have a new 14% that's done. So, we just were very aggressive, but I feel like this is the only way that we were able to be successful because we were tearing the focus in too many different directions for our teammates. So we just we pounded it home here. Okay, so my last and favorite one that we did, I was over the upgrade, if you can't tell. I have a lot of attachment to it. So we did mock upgrades, which these were practice upgrades. This is an EPIC recommendation. So we did practice runs, and during these practice runs, we took one of our test environments that was on 2014. We brought the system down. EPIC did their upgrade piece. Once the system was released to the analysts then went in and completed their build. They validated that all of their build was correct and the system still was behaving like they want it to. And then we brought the system back up. And so we did this 2 times. We had a third planned just in case we needed it. What the value of this was for us was, number one, I've never experienced an upgrade myself, so I was like a nervous little jittery bug in that room that day as we did the test, the first test, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, so it really, number one, it gives everybody a sense of how does this really work? What are the steps that we take? What are the cues that I'm going to give you for you to do your steps and for you to give me back so that I know you're done? What issues are we going to run into? We found out this X, Y, and Z does not work. So we've got to do some fixes, put those in place before the next mock upgrade so that we can perfect our process and our build so that when we actually, really go live on the upgrade, we've got it down to a T. I may have made this into a bit of a competition amongst the teams. Because I wanted the upgrade to be as short as possible, in terms of downtime. So we had the Post-it stickies on the wall, and we time-stamped everything. So how long did it take EPIC to be down? Because, are y'all done yet? Are y'all done yet? How long did it take each application team to do their build? How long did it take them to validate? And really we were, kind of pushing everybody. Ooh, Cadence is done before ADT. You better get on it. And it became a competition because they didn't want to be the last one and me waiting on them. So, our first mock upgrade was an hour and 32 minutes. Our second one was an hour and 37 minutes because we had an issue. And then our upgrade was an hour and 20 minutes. So we really were able to practice and perfect it so that when we went live, it was just easy peasy. All right, so what's next for the Encompass team and what's on the horizon for us? So I've mentioned it a couple times. We have our first Community Connect site, Southeastern Healthcare, that in Lumberton, that is going live at the same time that we are in November. So they are actually going live on a full EPIC suite. So they are going live on Rev Access and Clinicals. We have a separate project team that's working on that. Basically what we're doing is we're providing a service to an organization that may not have the resources or the time, or maybe they're just somewhat smaller. I'm just giving examples, not saying that's how Southeastern is, but maybe they're too small to implement EPIC by themselves. And so this is our first one. We're very excited about it, and hopefully it's means we'll have more. I'm sure it will. And then again, as I mentioned, I'm already planning for the 2018 upgrade that will most likely be in Q3, Q4 next year. So as I said, our last go live is July 2018, but it never stops. There's always something. All right, any questions? Appreciate you guys being so engaged. Cool. Thank you.